Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Wherever you call home, we are there. In favorite places, large spaces, for many homes we have coverage that fits the way you live. And with our home systems protection, you can cover major home appliances and more. We cover more type of homes than ever. Get the coverage you and your family deserves. For a free no obligation quote, visit us online or simply give us a call.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest, Grandmaster Richard Hackworth, and we're going to touch base on an issue that's seen every year. It's a pattern. You know, within the next 2 weeks, as we were previously talking, the school districts across the United States are going to open their doors. Their school's going to open up again. And usually what happens, starting September onward, everybody starts getting calls that their kid is or their child is being bullied. That's what I want to talk about today, because that pattern continues over and over in the beginning of the school year. And we'll take it from there. How we doing, my brother? Hope you're doing great.
I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me back to the show. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
And it's great because you've been involved in the business of martial arts for over 3 decades. The same here. We've seen this occur. What's your rationale on it, or your reasoning behind it? Not the fact that kids get bullied, because that's part of nature, or people get bullied. That's part of nature, and we have to deal with that. But that pattern, you know, they call, they never show up, all that stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem with the bullying is that the parents never take any steps to help prevent it. You know, and so many things that the kids do. The kid is not your friend. You're the parent. You have a moral obligation and a legal obligation to provide for the health and safety of that child. And you can't do that if you're letting them spend 7 hours a day on screens, playing on their phone, on tablets, or whatever. And it's just deteriorated their ability to socialize and talk to each other. And the biggest problem with the bullying is that these young people don't know how to talk to each other. You know, and it's a real, because everybody gets offended. Well, I don't like how he said that to me, so I'm going to punch him right in the nose. He didn't mean it bad. He just doesn't know how to talk any better. And his parents never helped because, like I said, they replaced parenting with devices. And to me, you know, a cell phone or a tablet is nothing more than an electronic pacifier. It's just a way the parents have of shutting that kid up so they don't have to do anything with him. Why? Because they're addicted to their devices. I see moms that they're sitting there, they're walking through the grocery store playing on Instagram and stuff. I'm like, really? You can't even do grocery shopping without playing on Instagram and Facebook? You know, that's where the problem lies. And the kids are going to follow that. Kids don't do what you say, they do what you do. They follow your example, not what you tell them. So don't think that because I told my kid not to play on his phone all day, well, if you didn't take the phone away, of course he's going to play on it. You know, well, I told my kid not to eat cupcakes for breakfast. Well, did you make him a breakfast, or did you just let him go to the refrigerator and grab cupcakes? You know, the parents have to take some responsibility for the fact that their child is not equipped to be out in the world. You know, so your alternatives are to either become a parent or homeschool your kid.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And you see that pattern throughout, you know. A lot of parents and teachers confuse a schoolyard tussle to bullying. And
Yeah.
let's explain the difference of that. Bullying is something that a person's calling you names, pushing you, aggravating you all the time. And it can
Right.
be a group of persons, it can be one person, it can be a group of kids, it can even be a group of adults. I've seen teachers and coaches in schools bully the children and you bully the youth. So it's a continual action. A schoolyard tussle is you're going after the ball and the guy fumbles and to pick him up and the guy gets mad, goes over and pushes the other kid around, and all of a sudden now you have a schoolyard tussle. It became might end up in fists. That's a fight. They're totally two different things. Can bullying become a fight? Yes, it can. It's going to lead to that eventually. The violence of bullying if the bully will eventually resort to violence to protect himself from the other person, whether he's going to be aggressive verbally, physically, it's going to happen. So when I get calls, I usually get calls, parents calling that their kids are being bullied. Then you find out when you interview them, when you come in and you find out and you're talking to him and them and their child. Usually the child said, "Oh, I was running in the base and the kid pushed me." That's not bullying. So you have to
Right.
understand that. Do martial arts help that? Of course it does. But martial arts, I'll say this. I don't care whether it's boxing, savate, hapkido, taekwondo, whatever. The thing is you have to have continuancy. If the parents bring them just they start off great for the first week and all of a sudden the third week they'll bring them one time, the fourth week you're not going to go, the fifth week maybe not, and so on and so forth. That's they're the ones that are being harmful for the child. It's not the art, it's not the child, it's a continuancy of the parents bringing them. And I think that lack of discipline is where it's at. And how do you see that?
Yeah, I think that you're right. The lack of discipline is a big part of it. And that goes right back to the lack of social skills. Because sometimes when you meet these kids and you see how they talk to each other, you can understand, like, well, I can understand why somebody wanted to slap this kid because he's very abrasive in the way he talks. And that starts at home. They talk to the parents that way, you
Absolutely.
know? And so I'm like, your child doesn't have a bullying problem. They have a lack of parenting problem. If you let your kid talk to you like that at home, and your kid's always going to have a bad attitude because he's exhausted. All you do is feed him garbage. You're giving him some high fructose, cereal in the morning, and they're drinking soda and, like you said, cupcakes or snack cakes or whatever all day. And it's just their system is fried from all the chemicals, all the sugar, all the high fructose corn syrup. And that's just lazy parenting. If you want a lot of those problems to go away, put them on a healthier diet. And the way you do that is put the whole family on the diet. Because if you're sitting around eating bonbons, watching Jerry Springer and playing on your phone, your kids aren't going to learn healthy habits. Not at all. It
You
goes
you you
back
know
to the parents.
you're absolutely correct. I was talking to a baseball coach a couple of days ago, and he was talking about if a child is doesn't have discipline, more likely the parents don't have discipline either.
Yeah.
And I was listening to him talk, and I was in agreement because that's exactly right. And he goes, "Do you?" And he asked me this: "Do you have the problem of the parents bringing the kids to train?" I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Because here we make sure that if the child doesn't come to class to the training for the baseball, and he misses so many times or is late so many times, he's not playing the following game. Do you have
Right.
some type of discipline like that?" And I go, "Yeah, it starts." And he goes, "And what occurs?" "Well, they'll pull him off the school and they'll take him to another place." Why? Because that lack of discipline. So they resort to removing them from the discipline action and going somewhere else. And he goes, that's what happens here. But since their ego, he goes, the ego of the parents wishing the kid to be a baseball star forces many parents to bring them and be more disciplined in time and so on and so forth. And I said, you know what?
Yeah.
You're right.
It's funny you bring that up. And I think that one of the big problems, especially with team sports and stuff, is that the parents have absolutely unrealistic expectations. Your child doesn't come from a gene pool. It's going to be a professional athlete. The mother, dropped out of high school pregnant in the ninth grade. The dad never played any sports, was never in the military, never did anything. So you think two unhealthy people are going to reproduce and create a super athlete? That it doesn't work that way. Not even in the animal world. You can't take two nearly dead horses and create a triple crown racehorse. It's not possible. So, like I said, it all goes back to the parenting. Start with a healthy diet, put them on a schedule, make them go to bed at the same time every day, make them get up at the same time every day. I know one of the parents at our school that's a doctor, their child wasn't allowed to have electronics until they were 12 years old. And then they have limited access. They don't get to take that phone to school. If there's an emergency, the school's going to call the police, not the kid. And so the thing is, when the child comes home, they do their homework after the parents have seen the homework and the children have done their chores. Once that's complete, they're given 1 hour with a device, whether it's their cell phone or their tablet, to do whatever they're going to do. At the end of 1 hour, whether they finish the game or not, it's time to turn it off and it goes back in the drawer under the parent's control. And then the other thing that I heard was he was talking about a thing they call the Amish hour, that there's absolutely no electronics whatsoever going on, no TV on in the house, none of that, the last hour before going to sleep. If the kids are bored, they can read a book until time to go to sleep. But other than that, and he said they came up with that phrase because the Amish don't have electricity. So they're not doing electronics, anytime, day or night. So I thought that was kind of an easy way to remember, that habit. But he said, yeah, that going to bed at the same time every day and getting them up at the same time every day, even the weekend, because I know there's parents like, I'm going to let my child sleep till 2 p.m. on. No, because that breaks that cycle of self-discipline. And it breaks the structure, and kids need structure. Structure gives them security, not just self-discipline, but it helps them feel less afraid because they have a predictable, safe environment. And if you're not providing that, there's no 2-3 hours a week at martial arts class that's going to change any of that, So that's where it all begins, with the structure at home. And I think that if they are going to look for a martial arts school, I have 3 suggestions. Number 1, look for a experienced, qualified instructor. And I compare it to this. If my child had a heart condition that required surgery, am I going to try to find a guy that graduated medical school last week to do that heart surgery? Or do I want the most qualified guy with 30, 40 years experience who's done this procedure literally 1,000 times doing it because my child's life is on the line? Of course you want the most experienced person, and that goes with everything. Hell, I don't even like to have a mechanic work on my car that doesn't have at least 20 years experience, much less somebody, try to help my child with something, so I think finding a qualified, seasoned instructor is the way I'll say it, is the best way to go.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I agree. We're going to go back with what you said about the discipline and the time restraints. I have found out through over the years that they bring you a child into the parents really don't care what he's learning. They don't know that many of them do not know the difference between sumo wrestling and capoeira or boxing and fencing. They don't understand anything. So unless they come from a parent that did a martial art before, was involved in martial arts, they're going to search for the child to learn a particular martial art, and they'll go for questioning. But the vast majority, they don't understand. And what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing the pattern of they want you to raise the child. So right now, a lot of people, and I understand that because of business sense, you have to keep your doors open. All of a sudden, these martial arts become daycares. All of a sudden, they'll pick them up from school, they'll take them to there, they'll give them a Frito pie or a hot dog or a slice of pizza that they got from $8 from Little Caesars. And guess what happens? The child is there from 3:30 after school to about 6:30, 7:30, and maybe 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And that's basically what they do. And they become the babysitting service, the nanny, daddy daycare or whatever you want to call it, martial art daycare, black belt daycare. And that to me is what the majority of parents think martial arts is the training hall is now that. And people have a misconception. So I'm just gonna throw my child over there, and you guys deal with the disciplinary problems. And sometimes the second thing that many parents say is, my son needs discipline. Well, I'm not the parent.
Exactly. So now in your class, like in your Kempo class or the Capoeira class, Savate class, how long is the class time?
The class time is about an hour long.
Okay. And I'm glad you said that, because so at school, at public school, their classes are 40 to 45 minutes long. And I hear a lot of instructors say, well, we do our class 45 minutes long because that's how long their classes are at school. No, you can't build self-discipline by having them do the same little short amount that they do at their other activities. We do a full hour to make them focus for 15 minutes longer than normal on something so that they can develop that focus, develop self-discipline, develop the confidence to do something that's a little more difficult. And the truth is, kids want to be challenged. They want to feel like they've accomplished something at the end of class. And that's why we say, we know we've had a good class if the kids leave sweaty and smiling. That's our goal.
Absolutely. And when we talk about parents, whether the father or the mother, and the father brings in the child, that father will have the discipline to continue bringing the child. If it's at 5 o'clock, he's going to be here 4:50, 10 minutes before, or 4:45, and the child's going to be on time every time unless something occurs. When you give it to the mom, classes at 5, vast majority, they're going to get here at 5:20. And they're going to expect you to continue teaching them till 6, if say it's from 5 to 6 to 6:30. They'll take off and come back an hour and a half later, because now you became the babysitter while she's getting her nails done or what have you. That lack of discipline is seen there. And I'm not going after women. This is a pattern that I've seen for many years. I mean, there's a lot of great moms that bring them in and they're punctual as well. But the vast majority. And also what I've seen is have a father come in here and says, you know what? I'm signing up my child. The mom's going to bring him. Maybe it's a hit and run.
Yeah.
So, discipline, I see a lot stronger when you have a male figure, a father figure, maybe a grandfather, an uncle that's there at the house that's pushing that forward. And I'm not cutting
unfortunately, less than half the homes have a male figure in the house.
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's why, I feel like when a child joins, you need to have an orientation for the parents and let them understand. And we make this clear. They need to be there no more than 10 minutes before class, because we're not babysitters. And they need to be picked up within 10 minutes of the end of class, or you're going to owe us a late fee. We are not your alternative childcare provider. This is an activity, and they wouldn't do that at like a piano lesson. They're not going to drop the kid off, 45 minutes before their piano lesson and pick them up an hour late, So don't let them do that to the martial arts class. And then the other thing is that let them know when they get there, go in, ask professor if there's something you can help with before class.
Yeah.
Because you want to develop that attitude of, look, this isn't just something I do. I'm a part of this. This is my extended family. And I have responsibilities here at the school, just like I have at home,
Absolutely.
and those responsibilities can be helping to pick up the pads or helping one of the younger kids, whatever it is. And then after class, tell them, look, get your shoes on, be ready. So when I pull up, you can get out of the way and let's get you home. And so when you develop that structure and remind the parents of it so that they're participating, it helps the parents develop the habit of getting there 10 minutes before, pick him up within 10 minutes after. And everything goes much smoother because the children need that structure. But if you're dropping them off at a different time and picking them up at a different time every time they come to class, they can't develop a routine. They can't develop self-discipline. They're not getting the structure they need for that to happen. And maybe we can come back on another show. And there's a thing that I like to talk about, how we apply the lessons of martial arts into your daily lives. And
Absolutely.
I tell people that, through the martial arts, there are 7 steps to black belt level discipline. And if you, as the parent, do the things that we suggest, your child is going to develop the self-discipline of a Marine Corps color guard member. I mean, they're going to be sharp, and you're going to be proud as a parent, to see that out of your kid.
You're absolutely correct. And that's what you want. You want that discipline. You're not trying to make little stormtroopers. You're trying to make good citizens in society, because what you learn in school is you hear the bell ring, you better be in the other room ready to go. You got 5 minutes to get to the other class before the bell rings, and then the second bell rings, you're tardy. That's a production line. That means that you're producing you to work in a work environment of, you clock in at 8 o'clock. If you're 10 minutes late, you got deducted pay. And if you so many times you're tardy, well, guess what happens? They're gonna get a warning, and so on and so forth. What you want is that person that's a free thinking individual, and that's what martial arts does, that has his own business. Maybe he's working for another company. Maybe he's working there, but he is able to understand what discipline is instead of being sloppy about it.
Yeah, you're right. And what's funny is that the entire parenting community has been sold a bill of goods. They're being told that, well, your job is to create a well-behaved child. No, it goes much further. Your goal is to develop an adult. And you do that if you're going to say, well, this is acceptable behavior for 11-year-old. No, I'm not misbehaving is acceptable. That we develop the structure. Are they going to have self-discipline to keep a job when they grow up if you let them have wavy discipline levels in your home and at school? No, absolutely not. That kid is going to live in your basement until you pass away. They will never move out of that house. So, if you want your child to become a responsible adult who may someday end up in a position that they have to be your caregiver, you better take this seriously. And I heard a story. I got to ask you about this. I don't know if you plan to talk about it, but I heard about a phone call you got for a alleged black belt of yours.
Absolutely.
Can you share that?
Absolutely.
I got to hear this.
2 weeks ago, right before class, or last 2 weeks ago, before class, I get a call, like everybody else, and we all have our spiel that we tell people and potential clients. And I get a call, and I can hear that the individual was upset, very aggressive in this tone. And the first things that came out, and it was talking in Tex-Mex, half Spanish, half English, but I'll say what in English for everybody. He goes, "Is this a martial art place?" And I said, "Yes, it is. How can I help you?" And he goes, "You gave my son a black belt." And I said, "What? I gave your son a black belt?" I go, how old is your son? Goes 9. He's going to be 10. I go, number one, what's your name? I won't mention his name. And he tells me his name, and I start conversing with him, and I tell him, let me tell you something. Uh, I do not give any black belts. You earn them. And on another entity in Kempo, I follow the old tradition. You have to be 17 years old to get a black belt. So I don't have no junior black belts. So, and then you still have to earn it. So number one, you don't have a black belt. In Savat, there is no black belts. And in Capoeira, there is no black belts either. I go, what style did he train in? Well, he trained martial arts. The father didn't know what school he was in. And I said, where's the martial art place that you're going to? And he told me that it was on a street on the boulevard called Delmar. I said, let me tell you something here. That's not my school. I go, so what occurred with your kid? Well, before all this explanation, he goes, you gave him a black belt, and my son went to a party at Peter Piper. Peter Piper is this place that serves pizzas, and they have games, and it's kind of like a party house.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And so the kid went there, and apparently 2 other kids punched him around. And I said, I understand why you would be mad, but let me tell you this. Only because you have a black belt doesn't mean you can fend off 2, 3 attackers, yet alone. But let me tell you this other thing. You made 3 mistakes here. One, you do not know where your child's school is at, and you called the wrong place. Second, you assumed that I was giving away black belts. I don't give away anything. You earn them, and wrong system, wrong style. And third, I said, well, the most important part, I go, if you would have brought your kid to me, the beginning, he would not have been the one that would have gotten pummeled. He would be the one pummeling the other 2 little kids that beat him up, or 3 kids that beat him up. I said, you have to realize where you placed it. And he goes, oh, well, my wife put it over there, or his mom put it over there. That's what he said. His mom put it over there. So I realized that's what happens. Search, understand, research where you're putting them in. There's a difference between a father wanting their child to learn how to fight and defend himself, and the other thing is when the mom calls and says, I wanted him to join because he needs to do something. He needs something to do, like put him wash dishes, cut the grass. Those are things to do around the house. Make up his bed, clean his room. Is he doing that? But don't put a kid into a martial arts school because he needs something to do. That is a wrong idea. Why? Because you're going to end up with a child or a person, a young person growing up in a place that he really doesn't want to be there. And that right there is negative energy throughout. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's the story.
Yeah, I understand completely, and I agree totally. And that's actually one of the reasons I enjoy being on your show. Is a lot of times, I'm learning new stuff, and I consider you not just a friend but a mentor as well. And I have the greatest respect, for your experience and your level of knowledge. And so, if you're a parent in the Laredo area, I can't recommend this guy enough. To earn an adult. If not just the kids, but you grown-ups need to come and experience, what it's like to train with a seasoned, professional, qualified teacher. And Professor Buitron is all of those things.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you for the kind words. And I know we're running out of time, but parents, this goes out to you all, and then I'll leave something to the martial art instructor here. Parents, search, research each school. The cheapest is not the best. Okay? Mm-hmm. Understand what you're doing, what you want of your child, and then take it from there. And for instructors, I understand that you have to make rent. We've all been there. But you can still teach correctly without, I hate to use this word, prostituting yourself out into a babysitter. And because that's not what it's about. I did not join martial arts. I did not become an instructor of martial arts. I did not teach to become a kindergarten instructor. That not happening. If I wanted to become that, I would have gone to school, educational, and probably opened up preschools. But that's not what it's about.
Well, I know that might sound a little abrasive to some people, but it's the truth. And the thing is, instructors have to understand that if you don't represent your art with integrity, you are never going to be truly successful. No matter how much money you make as a child care provider, because you're not actually being a martial arts instructor, you're not going to feel fulfilled as a teacher. You're not going to feel the same pride you feel of authentically and ethically representing your art and teaching it to the standards that it was meant to be taught at. And so that's my word of advice to the instructors out there. Practice your integrity. Don't lower your standards, because a few extra dollars isn't worth the lost sleep and the disrespect you'll have for yourself by doing that. And that's the truth.
And disrespect people are going to have to you in case stuff like this happens, that one of your students goes out there and gets pummeled.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll leave you with this. You all stay safe. God bless, and you'll have a great day. Till next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay safe. Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.